Hey everybody, welcome back to part two of our digital minimalism lecture. In part one, I discussed the cost-benefit analysis of social media, and we saw some of the staggering costs associated with the benefits from social media. In this part, I want to talk with you about a few different approaches to using social media that may be of interest to you. Many of these suggestions come from Cal Newport's book, Digital Minimalism, which is pictured below. I hope that you'll maybe consider taking a look at that book and skimming through it. He's a little bit more extreme in some of his recommendations, but he is a fantastic thinker and definitely somebody I respect his work. He also has a really good book called Deep Work, which is about scheduling times of uninterrupted work where you can really get into the flow of something hard and difficult and make progress on difficult things. Definitely worth looking into. So Cal Newport, check him out when you have the chance. All right, so we're going to go through two options for social media. The first is sort of a digital decluttering, and the second is a digital diet, which is a little bit less extreme than the decluttering, but we'll talk about both. Decluttering, obviously, I think is a little bit better, and you'll see why. But the diet is also very effective. And take a look and let me know what you think about them if you'd be interested in either. First off, before we talk about decluttering or dieting, you have to understand that you're fighting an uphill battle. We're fighting against people that have invested billions of dollars in creating tools that are supposed to be as addictive as possible. The whole point of Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all of YouTube, all of these things is to sell you advertising. And the longer they can keep you on their applications, the more money they make. And they spend billions of dollars designing their apps to make them addictive. So something to think about is how can we use these tools to receive the benefits without experiencing the side effects or without the addiction? What won't work is things like minor corrections, right? A minor correction might be like, oh, I'm only going to look at Instagram for 10 minutes a day, right? Or relying on willpower or just vague resolutions. I'm going to use social media less. Well, what does that mean, right? So those sort of things won't work, right? We need to come up with something a little bit more bold, a little bit stronger to defeat the addiction habit. You need a philosophy of technology use that's rooted in values that provides you with clear answers to the following questions. What technologies should I be using? How should I use them? And what technology should I ignore? Digital minimalism is a framework or philosophy that I think fits well for our current problem. Cal Newport defines digital minimalism as a philosophy of technology use in which you focus your online time on a small number of carefully selected and optimized activities that strongly support things you value and then happily miss out on everything else. So let's dive into that a little bit and unpack what that means. First of all, minimalist technology use has a threshold that it has to make. So first off, we have to say, does this technology support something I value? Secondly, is this the best way to use technology to support that value? For example, I might value staying in touch with my family and friends. But is Instagram really the best way for me to connect with family and friends? Should I be using maybe a phone call or a video call, right? Rather than just liking and commenting, maybe actually connecting with somebody would be the best way. So Instagram may not meet my support the value the best of connecting with friends and family, right? It has to meet these two questions. Does it support something I value, and is it the best way to use technology to support that value? Some of the principles of minimalism, we'll cover it here, but one principle is that clutter is costly. So when people introduce new tools, they only focus on the benefits. They don't really consider the cost of the tools as well. And honestly, those tools, as we discussed earlier, they cost our time, they cost our attention. adding just one new tool, it doesn't require a whole lot. But look at your phones. How many apps are on your phone that you have there, and that it just over time it's accumulated so much effort, right? That it's costing so much. You get marginal benefit from new tools with many more demands on your time and attention. Uh, Another principle of minimalism is that optimizing how we use technology is just as important as the technology we use. So very few people think about the best way to use technology. We just see the technologies as novel and fun, and again, we don't pay attention to the marginal benefit and marginal benefit increase versus the exponential cost increase. So think about how you're using the technology. So the first option we have for implementing this minimalist philosophy for technology is the digital declutter. And what that involves is a 30-day break from optional technologies. I want you to spend that time that you take away from those optional technologies to explore activities and behaviors that are more satisfying and meaningful. At the end of the 30 days, you can reintroduce the optional technologies by determining the value that that technology provides and how you will use it to maximize value. So here's the 3 steps to digital decluttering. Define your technology rules, follow those rules for 30 days, and reintroduce optional technologies. So first, your technology rules. You need to consider what is not optional technology. And Cal Newport suggests consider the technology optional unless its temporary removal would harm or significantly disrupt the daily operation of your professional or personal life. For example, most of you connect with me on email. I cannot eliminate email from my work. That is not an optional technology. I have to use email for work. So I cannot eliminate it. But Facebook, I can eliminate Facebook. I don't use Facebook for work. I'm not going to use Facebook for work. I can eliminate Facebook. And we need to distinguish between convenient and critical. If you need email for work, it's not optional. If you're in charge of Facebook or Instagram advertising at your work, it isn't optional. But spending time outside of work on Instagram or on personal profiles rather than your work profiles, that is optional. So you need to understand what's the difference between convenient and critical. For allowed technologies, create rules for their use. A couple of examples I have. Personally, I do not wake up and check email. I refuse to check email first thing in the morning. It just sets the wrong tone for my day, and I feel like if I check email first thing, I'm letting other people set my agenda as opposed to setting my agenda for myself. So I check email twice a day for 20 minutes after completing my most important task of the day. I'm not allowed to check email until I've completed that most important task. I respond to non-urgent text messages on my schedule. I determine what's urgent and what's not, and I only get into text conversations when I'm ready to get into those conversations. And also, this is one I'm not so good at, but it would be a good rule to have, and maybe I'll implement it more. But you can keep your phone in drive mode during working hours. That allows you to set aside time where people cannot get in touch with you and the text messages won't come through. There is a way around it. For example, if they send a text message, you can send an automated response that essentially says, if this is an emergency, type in emergency or something like that, and it'll put your message through. But other than that, it keeps you your phone undisturbable, and you'll actually get more work done. But keep in mind, if you have too many operating conditions, it's going to be hard to follow, right? You can't say oh, I'm going to use if this and that, and then if this, then that. It gets confusing after a while. So try to keep your technology rules easy to follow. Okay, so you should have 2 things at this point. a list of banned technologies. For example, for me, Facebook would be banned if I was doing a digital decluttering, unless I'm running Facebook ads for a client. So Facebook would be banned for personal use, and relevant operating procedures for allowed technologies. For example, my email rules: no more than twice, checking email no more than twice a day for 20 minutes, and checking email after I've accomplished my first task for the day. Those would be operating procedures for an allowed technology. And I might have something around how I use Facebook at work if I'm running an ads campaign. Follow these rules for 30 days. So this is the second step of the program. Now, look, if you're going to eliminate a lot of these optional technologies and have rules around how you use technology that's left over, this will free up a lot of time. And how you use this time will determine how your digital declutter goes. And it also will help with you actually continuing to use social media smartly when the 30 days is up. So you're likely going to be urged to use these disallowed technologies, like who doesn't get the itch for Instagram? However, if you find high quality activities to fill the time, you should be in good shape. If you want to make the most of this declutter, you need to, as Cal Newport says, make this period one of strenuous activity and experimentation. Rediscover activities that generate real satisfaction. Like, what do you enjoy doing? Maybe it's learning photography. So dedicate an hour a day to learning photography and practicing the new techniques that you've learned. Web design, same thing. Figure out something you're passionate about and you want to enjoy learning about, and use the time that you free up to do something that activities that support making your life more enjoyable. So you're trying to basically make yourself have a better life where technology can serve a supporting role. For example, I don't have a problem with somebody using YouTube if they're using YouTube to support one of these things, right? Like if you want to learn about photography, go on YouTube and spend 20 minutes a day learning a new technique, and then 40 minutes a day going out and practicing that technique, taking pictures. After the 30 days is up, you get to reintroduce optional technologies. But again, only let technologies back in that pass these two standards. Does the technology support something that I deeply value, and is this technology the best way to support this value? If both questions get a yes, you need to ask yourself, how will you use the technology to maximize the value and minimize its harm? Add operating procedures for any technology being added back in. For example, I like to check Facebook to see what my family and friends are up to. Therefore, I check Facebook once a week on Saturday mornings to keep in touch with my meaningful relationships and seeing what they're doing. Notice I'm not using this to connect with my meaningful relationships, but just to see what they've been up to. Now, I say laptop because using Facebook on your laptop is a lot less addictive than using Facebook on your phone. If you have the app on your phone, you're going to constantly be getting notifications unless you turn them off, but you're also just going to always have the itch because your phone's always on you. You're always going to have the itch to open up Facebook and check it. So for me, like if I wanted to keep Facebook and use it like this, maybe instituting a once a week policy on my laptop only would be the best way to reintroduce that technology. Now, an important part of this whole thing in social media is about blending solitude and connection. The point of the digital detox is that it isn't good for us to have such surface level connection all the time. Connectivity is good, but it's better if we blend it with periods of solitude as well. Sometimes over connecting and being available all the time can be overwhelming. So we need to have periods of solitude as well. And here's some practices for adding some solitude to your life. You can leave your phone at home. Now, some of you might be like, oh, I can't leave my phone at home. What if somebody needs to be in touch with me? Well, there's a really cool product called the Light Phone. And what the light phone is it's like it tethers to your smartphone. So you can download an app onto your smartphone that connects it to a light phone. The light phone is just basically, it allows you to make phone calls and send text, and that's it. And if you want to have your phone and be connected, but not have all the distractions of your smartphone, you can click on the light phone app on your smartphone, and it will turn on your light phone. And then any phone call or text will go directly to your light phone. You don't even have to have your smartphone with you. And you can have phone and be connected without having to worry about anything else. So some other things you can do to add solitude include long walks, maybe go for a walk around campus or go for a hike somewhere, and also keep a journal for decision making. I think this one was an interesting suggestion. The idea here was that we tend to think we're better decision makers than we are, or better predictors than we are. So if we take the decision, if we keep a journal about what sorts of decisions we make, and we actually go back and review those decisions and why we made those decisions, we might find some interesting things out about how we make decisions and whether or not we're accurate. So just some things to think about, right? Leaving your phone at home, going for a little bit more longer walks, and keeping a journal are all great practices for adding solitude. You also should focus on having deeper, more meaningful connections. And Sherry Turkle is a professor from MIT, I believe. And she had a really nice interview on the Colbert Report that I'm going to put on to the back of this playlist for you to take a look at. Now, how do you actually go from solitude to connection? What is good connection, right? Because I really feel like, just liking somebody's post on Instagram or saying, oh, great shot, or oh, fire, right? Like doing some sort of stupid emoji, isn't really the best connection. Um, Connection options include in-person meetings, video chats, and phone calls. Connecting does not include texting or anything of a non-interactive nature where somebody has to wait for you or you wait for them to respond. I'm thinking of like instant messenger chat back from my day. Any sort of like online chat where you're waiting for somebody to respond. So how do we increase connection? Here are some practices that I recommend. The first is don't click like, right? Don't think that clicking like is connecting with someone. It isn't. We use lights as a substitute for connection. So we light somebody's picture, or we whatever, and we think to ourselves that means you've connected with the person. You really haven't. You don't have connection just by lighting. So you need to have a list of people that you actually want to connect with and make time in your schedule for connecting with them. Texting isn't connecting. It's one thing if you're planning lunch or where to meet, that's fine, but text conversations are not the same as connecting. For planning purposes, use texting as needed, but otherwise, choose a time that works for you to respond to text. Don't let other people dictate your life. Just like I refuse to check email in the morning because it allows other people to control my schedule, I feel like texting is the same thing. People expect we're supposed to have this instantaneous reply to texting, and it's very disrespectful to the person getting the text if they're letting it take over their time, right? So if you're busy doing something, focus on what you're doing. You can respond to the text later, right? So consolidate texting for when it's appropriate for you. Don't let other people dictate your life. I like the idea that Newport puts out about holding conversation office hours. Let people know when it's okay for them to call you. I really don't like when my phone rings. It annoys me. It interrupts what I'm doing. I don't know, maybe I'm introverted and all of that, but for me, I think that it's nice to have times when you are available for people to call you. For example, people know they can call me between 9 and 10 in the morning and after 4 in the afternoon, like 4 and 5 in the afternoon. That's when I'm driving, right? That's when I'm commuting. I'm sitting in traffic and I'm able to, knock out phone calls, or somebody can call me and I won't be annoyed because they're not interrupting me. So have conversation for office hours. And if somebody pings you with like a low quality connection request, instead of just having a low quality text chat, give them a phone call or let them know hey, this is when I'm available to discuss this matter. Why don't you give me a call on Monday at 3? right? And actually connect with the person then. So what do you do with all your free time? Obviously cutting down on your digital media usage opens up a lot of time. So think about high quality active pursuits like reading, maybe learning a new skill, building or fixing something. That's something I've become a little bit more prone to do around the house. Of course, I probably spend more money having to repair what I've tried to fix so far, but hey, what are you going to do? You got to start somewhere. Maybe join a club or an organization, maybe network some more. You can also look at creating a seasonal leisure plan, like what are some things that you want to accomplish or habits that you want to build. Use a weekly leisure plan to come up with those, look at those objectives and habits and schedule those habits into your life. Finally, if the digital detox is too extreme for you, maybe try the digital diet instead. Allow yourself 45 minutes of social media use each day, and you can schedule 3 sessions of 15 minutes per day. And you're not allowed to have one of these sessions first thing in the morning. The third step is turn off all notifications on your phone and computer. And if you feel the need if you feel the urge or the need to check social media during an unscheduled time, connect with a human instead. Maybe you can make a phone call to somebody or go buy a cup of coffee and chat with someone at the coffee shop. Maybe you can introduce yourself to somebody new and have a short conversation or reach out to an old mentor. Right? So the digital detox is a lot more flexible than the digital declutter. Once you've gotten used to these limits, go down from 3 sessions to 2. Right? So that's the difference between the digital diet and the digital detox. The detox is a little bit extreme, might be hard to implement, but I think everybody could do the digital diet safely. All right, here's the assignment for your week for this lecture. I'll post it up on the discussion section on Blackboard. So take a look at that and have a great day. We'll see you soon.